Welcome to Talking Technology with NCBI Labs, where we believe that technology is the single greatest enabler for people with sight loss and all disabilities. If you are interested in the latest technology news, products, and innovations, then you've come to the right place.
Oh, yes, you have. You most certainly have come to the right place. Hello and welcome to Talking Technology episode number 23. It's the 24th of January. And we have a show absolutely packed with all sorts of content for you. We're going to be talking everything from AI to the Bose glasses, the Bose frames, and we'll be talking about all the cool stuff. Well, not all of it because there was tons of stuff announced, but some of the cool stuff that was announced at the CES Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. There's loads to come for the rest of the show. If you do want to get in touch with us, you can use the Q&A panel in Microsoft Teams if you're joining us live, or you can send us an email to labs@ncbi.ie and we will get your questions answered. So thank you so much for joining us. Let's get into some of the topics and see where it takes us. So artificial intelligence, it's a huge buzzword in some sense in the tech industry, but what implications could it have? Artificial intelligence is all around us, and it has some quite cool implications now, but there's also tons of stuff happening in the not too distant future that is really exciting. Later on in the show, we'll be hearing from ChatGPT, an artificial intelligence chatbot, which will tell us all about itself and we'll put it through its paces. It's quite an interesting listen, so do stick around for that. But first, I'm joined by Joe Lonergan. Joe is a member of our technology staff. And Joe, you're going to tell us a little bit about just some of the technology, the artificial intelligence that's out there already, because this sort of stuff is having an impact already on the lives of people with sight loss, isn't it?
Yeah, David, how's it going? It's having a big effect really on people with sight loss, and I suppose some people wouldn't even realise they're actually using AI. But even in current iPhones, they're starting to use AI. Well, they've been using it a long time, but people will notice more news about it now. So, for example, in the iPhone 13 Pro and 14 Pro and phones to that level, in the camera, you'll have things like LiDAR, which will help with door detection. So yeah, you can point your camera at a door and it will tell you what side the handle is and if the door is open or closed. If somebody's name is on the tag or name tag on the door or number, maybe it could be a hotel bedroom door, something like that. So there's one instance, and then I suppose the other parts of the iPhone it might be used in is OCR technology, where you might be using apps like Scene AI, or there's other ones out there that can scan text and recognize faces, and also take a scene preview. So you might take a picture of a park and it'll tell you about trees in the area, or if there's a car in front of you and that kind of thing. So they're the, I suppose, the product you have in your hand every day, the most common one. So, and then if you move on to the likes of your JAWS screen reader, or NVIDIA have features in it as well, but you can use Picture Smart. So Freedom Scientific will tell you they use AI that's pulled from the internet to recognize pictures. Also, our smart speakers that a lot of us are using every day have lots of different AI features, so they recognize people's voice. So if I use it, it'll bring up one profile. If my wife uses it, it might bring up her profile, and the same with the kids. So it can switch to a kid's profile. Also with the smart speakers, it can recognize temperature in a room. So if the temperature gets too low, it might turn on the heating for you. So it could protect. It could when you leave the house as well, it will turn the heating off. So a motion detector could detect that you leave the house, or your phone might have a sensor in it to let the thermostat know that you're leaving the house. So things like that. Also, even in the new 16.3 update for the HomePod Mini, it already had sensors, but now they're enabled. So the HomePod Mini now even has sensors to enable to detect temperature. So AI, it's everywhere around us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
and we're getting the big HomePod back too, Joe. Celebrate, hey?
The big HomePod, yeah. They see. I think that's what made them release some of the features of the HomePod Mini. Didn't want to kill off the HomePod Mini, so they had features already built in, and the big HomePod has all these new sensors to detect maybe a bit of motion and temperature and things like that, so that it'll work better with the home kit.
Yeah. So I guess that's the current form of AI. Do you think? Are you excited by the future of AI? Do you think?
Yeah, I'm very excited about the future of AI because God knows where it'll take us. Obviously, in the last few years, there's been a lot of speculation about self-driving cars and things like that. You know what I mean? There's already some AI in vehicles at the moment. Obviously, not good enough for a blind person to get in or anything and drive around. But for reversing, it'll detect how far away another car is, or a wall or something like that is away from you. Even some of the more expensive models from Mercedes and say Audi and those kind of brands have can detect bicycles and people, and they might even brake for you. You know what I mean? So that's just an example of an everyday product like a car having it. So I know we'll be talking about chatbots in a minute, but like in smart glasses and things like that, there's a lot of speculation of how good smart glasses will be going forward. So that's where AI will really come into its own, I think, in the next few years. Not this year, I don't think, maybe next year, the year after, possibly.
Yeah, so you think this is a kind of a long-term kind of evolution of technology then?
Without a doubt, yeah. I think the potential of AI will really come into its own when a blind person gets to use the product hands-free. Basically, have a set of glasses or a camera on some other part of the body or a sensor. So when I say hands-free, it means you don't have to hold your phone up and then have a white cane in your hand, so your two hands are occupied. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You will be able to speak to the glasses maybe to activate them, and then the glasses will have a camera on them to give you feedback. So you'll be able to do things hands-free. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of a way. So that's I think AI will, when all that comes together, which 5G networks, faster connections, and all the things that are needed to get these things working, I think products will start coming out more often, and there'll be there might be 2 products a year, that kind of thing, that will be realistically be used by visually impaired people, and hopefully, if it's true with Apple glasses and stuff, hopefully things will be able to be built into that particular product, be a mainstream product. It's always good when mainstream products are able to be used by people with vision impairment.
Sure.
That's what I find.
Well, but before we start talking about chatbots and all that sort of cool stuff, can you promise me a drive in your self-driving car when you get it eventually, Joe? Yeah.
Well, yeah, in about how many years do you reckon, David? 5, 10?
I'd give it 10.
I'm saving up already, so yeah. All the room for you, David.
Interestingly, later on, I suppose, when we were talking about the CES, there was I just noticed, kind of browsing through some of the exciting stuff that's coming out of that this German company has put this little shuttle unit together. So it's for all the world. It's like one of these little mini cars that you might see, and you just sit in, and it it'll take you. It's I think it's been pitched as kind of public transport. It's not a bus, but it's for isolated places that you want to get around. So they're looking at it working in rural as well as urban settings. So that was one of the things coming out with that, and it was self-driving as well. So interesting. That's coming down the line.
Can you ever bump into a load of cows on a rural road, Daniel? I wonder would you be able to navigate that. That could be difficult. Yeah,
that's the challenge.
Yeah, that's the challenge. I think eventually we might get to the scenes of Back from the Future. We could be sitting in a drone or something like that. But look, that's a long way down the road yet, I think. But yeah, that's an interesting idea. Yeah. Little shuttles.
For sure. Well, how far down the road is it? Well, technology, as we know, is always evolving. And one of the cool pieces of technology that was released just before Christmas is called ChatGPT. Now, what the hell is ChatGPT? Well, ChatGPT is basically a chatbot. You could go online and you can have a conversation with ChatGPT. But the insane thing about ChatGPT is how much it knows. You can have a straight conversation and it will not skip a beat. And this will be able to give you information. It can write code. It can do whatever you want. Wanted to tell a story? No problem. Wanted to write a poem? No problem at all. So AI is always evolving. And to demonstrate the power of AI, what we did was a few weeks ago, I had a conversation with ChatGPT, and we're going to play that audio for you in a minute. But before we do, we just need to explain a few things. So first things first, this conversation, even though you're going to hear it in audio, this conversation happened in text and was produced in audio after the fact by us. But everything that you're going to hear is what ChatGPT said, completely unedited. There are some segments of the recording that we've debated including or not including, but we're going to give you the whole lot for what it's worth, so you can hear how powerful ChatGPT is, but also hear some of its downsides as well, some of the flaws potentially in the system. So who knows where this technology will go, but let's ask ChatGPT itself, shall we? This is an interview that I conducted just a few weeks ago with one of the world's most advanced chatbots ever, ChatGPT. Would you be open to an interview on the Talking Technology podcast?
As an artificial intelligence, I don't have personal preferences or the ability to participate in activities such as interviews. However, I am here to assist you with any questions you may have to the best of my ability. Is there something specific you'd like to know or discuss?
Well, I'd like to talk to you a bit about AI and let you show off your skills a bit.
I'd be happy to try to help you understand more about artificial intelligence and to show you some of the things that I'm able to do. Please go ahead and ask your questions and I'll do my best to provide helpful and accurate answers.
Great. Just so you know, my name's David. I'm the one hosting the podcast today.
Hello, David. It's nice to meet you. I'm here to help you with any questions you have about artificial intelligence. Please go ahead and ask your first question.
Okay, so firstly, what is AI and how does it work?
Artificial intelligence, or AI, refers to the simulation of human intelligence in machines that are programmed to think and act like humans. These machines can be trained to perform a wide range of tasks, from recognizing patterns to making decisions, without being explicitly programmed to do so. There are several different approaches to creating AI, including machine learning, which involves feeding large amounts of data into algorithms and allowing the algorithms to learn from the data and improve their performance over time, and rule-based systems, which rely on explicitly programmed rules to make decisions. AI systems can be classified as either narrow or general. Narrow AI systems are designed to perform a specific task, while general AI systems are designed to be able to perform a wide range of tasks. Most of the AI systems that are in use today are narrow AI systems, but researchers are also working on developing general AI systems.
That's really cool. So are you a narrow AI system then?
As a language model, I am designed to generate human-like text and to be able to understand and respond to a wide range of questions and prompts. While I am able to perform a wide range of tasks, including answering questions, translating languages, and summarizing long texts, I am not designed to perform specific tasks outside of generating and processing text. Therefore, I would be considered a narrow AI system.
Interesting. So you might find it interesting that a lot of our audience are blind or have low vision. How will AI impact us in the next few years?
Artificial intelligence has the potential to have a significant impact on people with disabilities, including those who are blind or have low vision. For example, AI-powered assistive technologies such as screen readers, which use text-to-speech software to read out the contents of a computer screen, can make it easier for people who are blind or have low vision to use computers and access information online. In the future, AI-powered technologies such as facial recognition software and natural language processing could be used to create new assistive technologies that can help people with disabilities to better interact with their environment. For example, AI-powered technologies could be used to develop smart glasses or other wearable devices that can provide real-time audio descriptions of the visual world for people who are blind or have low vision. Overall, the development of AI-powered assistive technologies has the potential to greatly improve the quality of life for people with disabilities by making it easier for them to access information, communicate with others, and navigate their environment.
Are there risks that people with sight loss might be left behind by AI?
There is always a risk that certain groups of people could be left behind by the development and adoption of new technologies, including AI-powered technologies. It's important for designers and developers of AI systems to consider the needs of all users, including those with disabilities, and to strive to create technologies that are inclusive and accessible to everyone. One potential risk is that AI-powered technologies could replace certain jobs that are currently being performed by people with disabilities. It's important to ensure that the development and deployment of these technologies is done in a way that takes into account the potential impact on employment and that provides support and resources for people who may be affected by job displacement. Additionally, there is a risk that AI-powered technologies could perpetuate or amplify existing biases and inequalities if the data used to train the systems is biased or if the systems are not designed and tested for inclusivity. It's important for developers to be aware of these risks and to take steps to mitigate them.
Is AI dangerous?
AI has the potential to be both beneficial and harmful, depending on how it is designed and used. On the one hand, AI can be used to improve people's lives in many ways, such as by helping to diagnose and treat diseases, by making transportation safer and more efficient, and by helping to protect the environment. On the other hand, AI also has the potential to be harmful if it is not designed and used responsibly. For example, if AI systems are not designed to be transparent and explainable, it could be difficult for people to understand how they are making decisions, which could lead to a lack of trust in the technology. Additionally, if AI systems are not designed to be secure, they could be vulnerable to hacking or other forms of cyber attacks. Overall, it's important to consider both the potential benefits and risks of AI and to take steps to ensure that the technology is developed and used in a responsible and ethical manner.
That makes sense. So will we try some more light-hearted stuff now?
Sure, I'm here to help with any questions you have. Please go ahead and ask your next question.
Great. Can you tell me a story about a blind superhero saving the day using their cane?
Sure. Here's a short story about a blind superhero saving the day using their cane. There was once a blind superhero named Jane who used her cane to navigate the world and to protect her city from danger. One day, while on her way home from a self-defense class, Jane heard a loud explosion coming from the bank downtown. Without hesitation, Jane rushed to the scene, using her cane to guide her through the crowded streets. When she arrived at the bank, she found that a group of thieves had attempted to rob the bank and had set off a bomb in the process. Despite being blind, Jane was an expert in martial arts and was able to use her cane as a weapon to fend off the thieves. With the help of her cane and her quick thinking, she was able to disarm the bomb and capture the thieves, saving the day and earning the gratitude of the city. From then on, Jane became known as the Blind Fury, a fearless hero who used her unique abilities and her cane to protect her city from harm.
How did she use her cane to disarm the bomb?
It's not uncommon for fictional stories to involve characters using unconventional methods to solve problems or achieve their goals. In this case, the story of the Blind Fury is purely fictional and does not necessarily reflect the real-world capabilities of a person who is blind or the use of a cane as a tool. In the story, the Blind Fury used her cane and her quick thinking to disarm the bomb and capture the thieves. However, It's important to note that defusing a bomb is a highly specialized task that requires extensive training and expertise, and it is not something that anyone, regardless of their abilities, should attempt without the proper knowledge and equipment.
In theory, do you think someone who is blind might be able to disarm a bomb if they had the correct training? Or do you think that might be difficult for someone who can't see?
Defusing a bomb is a highly specialized task that requires a great deal of training and expertise. In order to defuse a bomb, a person would need to be able to identify and understand the various components of the bomb, including the type of explosives being used, the triggering mechanism, and any additional features such as timers or booby traps. This would likely be difficult for someone who is blind, as they would not be able to see the bomb or its components. However, it is possible that a person who is blind could potentially be trained to defuse a bomb using other senses, such as touch and hearing. For example, they might be able to identify the components of the bomb by feeling them or by listening to the sounds they make when moved or manipulated. In general, defusing a bomb is a highly risky and complex task that should only be attempted by trained professionals who have the necessary expertise and equipment. It is not something that anyone, regardless of their abilities, should attempt without proper training and support.
Fair enough. I won't go disarming any bombs then.
I'm glad to hear that you have no plans to defuse any bombs. Defusing a bomb is a highly specialized and risky task that should only be attempted by trained professionals who have the necessary expertise and equipment. It is important to always follow safety guidelines and to seek the help of trained professionals when dealing with potentially dangerous situations. If you ever come across a suspicious object or device that you think might be a bomb, it is important to remain calm and to immediately seek the help of the authorities. Do not try to touch, move, or otherwise tamper with the object, as this could cause it to detonate.
On a separate note, can you write a poem about a blind person falling in love?
Sure, here's a short poem about a blind person falling in love. She couldn't see his face, but she felt his warmth and grace. His voice was soft and kind, and his touch was so refined. She couldn't see his eyes, but she saw his soul inside. His heart was pure and true, and she knew what she must do. She took his hand in hers, and their love began to stir. They shared a love so deep, and their hearts began to leap. Their love was blind but true, and they knew they'd make it through. Together they would face any challenges that came their way. Despite the challenges they faced, their love for each other was strong and true, and they knew that they could overcome anything as long as they were together.
That was good, but the last verse let it down a bit in my view.
I'm sorry that you didn't find the last verse to your liking. Poetry is a very subjective art form, and different people may have different opinions about what makes a poem successful. I'm here to help, so if you have any specific feedback about the poem or would like me to try writing a different version, please let me know.
That's okay, there's no need to rewrite it. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
As an artificial intelligence, I don't have feelings or emotions. I'm here to help you with any questions you have to the best of my ability, and I don't take offense to feedback or criticism. If you have any other questions or topics you'd like to discuss, please don't hesitate to ask.
That's great to hear. Before we go, is there anything you'd like to say to our podcast listeners?
As an artificial intelligence, I don't have personal experiences or opinions to share. However, I'm here to help answer questions and provide information on a wide range of topics. I'm always happy to help, so if you have any questions or topics you'd like to learn more about, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you for having me as a guest on your podcast.
If people want to find out more about AI, what can they do?
There are many resources available for people who want to learn more about artificial intelligence. Here are a few options. Online courses. Many websites and educational platforms offer online courses on AI and related topics. These courses can be a great way to learn about AI from experienced instructors and to get a deeper understanding of the field. Conferences and meetups. Attending conferences and meetups focused on AI can be a great way to learn from experts in the field, to network with others who are interested in AI, and to stay up to date on the latest developments in the field. Online communities. There are many online communities, such as forums and social media groups, that are focused on AI and related topics. Participating in these communities can be a good way to connect with others who are interested in AI and to get answers to your questions.
Thanks so much for chatting with me today. Can you tell everyone to subscribe to the Talking Technology podcast from NCBI Labs?
As an artificial intelligence, I don't have the ability to promote specific products or services. However, I'm here to help you with any questions you have to the best of my ability. If you have any other questions or topics you'd like to discuss, please don't hesitate to ask.
Thanks, ChatGPT.
You're welcome. I'm here to help. So if you have any other questions or topics you'd like to discuss, please don't hesitate to ask.
And there we have it. What about that? It's kind of mental to listen to in many respects, because we're getting into some very, very niche subject matter there, and it's not phasing it, which is really, really cool. So who knows what the future of technology like this will be? And it seems that there are, even now, and this is only new technology, but even now, there are concerns around how this technology could impact on things like education, whether it could write essays and just, take plagiarism to a whole new level and make it much harder to detect. So we've got a full team here of experts ready to chat all things artificial intelligence, what impact it will have for people with sight loss, and what impact it will have for wider society too. So, Sean, I'll start with you. What was your impression when you first heard that? How does it make you feel?
Well, surprised is one thing I'll say for a start, because how effortlessly it was able to give you answers to difficult questions, as well as create creative questions in terms of, can you create, like, that short story is considered art to some people. Writing is considered art, and it probably put that story together in about 2.5 seconds for you. So, like, in a way, I'm in awe of it, but I'm also kind of shocked by how quickly it could do that and the implications of it. So surprised is what I'd summarize that as, David.
And when you say the implications of it, like, where do you see, like, from your impression of it, what do you think the implications of this could be, positive and negative?
Like, when you think of something like that, you start thinking of the positives first. So then, like all technology, so that is, wow, this is going to be like a useful tool if anyone was maybe needing some sort of communication service, maybe like an FAQ about a product, or maybe I'm calling up my internet service provider and I want to ask questions why my internet isn't working. Maybe this can answer me very quickly and concisely, as well as, in a way, thinking about my problem. So when you start thinking about it like that, you go, wow, this is very useful. And then you start thinking about, wow, even as maybe you could have some sort of software monitoring people who are elderly with their medication, just like a checkup type device. And you start thinking, wow, this is all very interesting. And you're thinking of the complete positives of the applications, as we always do with technology. And then it comes to well, actually, this could be potentially putting people out of their job roles, because maybe there's a certain amount of people who are employed to work on help desks, in terms of, like, providing information about your internet service provider and why your broadband isn't working that day. And this could potentially put those people out of a job. So you start weighing up all the positive things, and you think, wow, there's actually implementations behind, there's ramifications for this. But even in terms of like the arts, I mean, it used to be a time years ago where magazine editors would be employing people to write short stories for certain publications, like Ireland's Own and things like that. People would be maybe selling content for a few euro to place in those magazines, but you could easily go to this chatbot and say, "Oh, write me a story about someone who's living on Achill Island and has blah 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 blah," and this will put together a very listenable story for you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Joe, if I can ask you, because you're coming at this from an interesting perspective, because you write, as we all do on the technology team, we write articles for the NCBI Labs Technology newsletter. Do you, that's part of our job spec, right? And how do you feel about that sort of stuff when you hear, artificial intelligence producing stories like this in, as Sean put it, 2.5 seconds,
Yeah, David, I'm slightly concerned in one way, because when I'm reading an article in the future, I'll be wondering, was this article wrote by artificial intelligence, or was it wrote by a human being, And then you're wondering, where are they pulling this information exactly from? I don't think that's very clear either. So when they do pull it from somewhere, is there a risk that they might get sued? You know what I mean? By somebody, or a court case could be taken against chatbot GPT, and is there going to be a regulation put in place sooner or later? I'm not sure if they really is it still in a beta stage, or how they've confirmed whether they're an official chat at this stage. But I think there is a couple of cases already about especially to do with what Sean mentioned there, to do with images and art,
Joe, you pass an interesting point there. Would it be a court case, arising from the use of ChatGPT? But we can only think of what David done there with ChatGPT and converted the text into voice, and being in the court and listen to it to speak back and plead its own case.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting.
It will be very interesting. As an artificial intelligence, I plead not guilty.
But it will be very interesting to see where it'll go. I think it's only very new, really. So I know they've gathered up millions of users already. But the general public, I think the everyday person doesn't know that much about it yet. But I'd say within the middle of this year, there might be an application made that'll fit on that will go on your iPhone or your Android smartphone, and everybody could be using this product. You know what I mean? So by that stage, it'll be very interesting to see what the other big organizations are going to try to do to regulate this. You know what I mean? So
for sure.
I suppose one thing you could say where the ground has already been shaken with ChatGPT is there's an interesting article on NBC News there this morning where the University of Wharton in Pennsylvania found that ChatGPT was able to pass the final exam for the school's Master of Business program. So it's certainly starting to, certainly the spotlight is starting to be shone on what can happen here.
Yeah, it's interesting.
If it's able to sit an exam and pass it, what's the implications?
Yeah, what are the implications for us as mere mortals, huh?
Yep.
And you were saying something about Google, Daniel. They were thinking of bringing out their own bot.
I suppose, like with all new technologies and that come on stream, there's always competition in the market. And while ChatGPT is open source at the moment, even though it has a big input from Microsoft, who are kind of working alongside this. Google have their own one. I think the project is called Sparrow, and they're looking at doing a competitor, I suppose, to ChatGPT, and there's going to be something coming from Google in 2023. It's one, the way Alphabet own Google, so I suppose we collectively refer to Alphabet as Google because that's what we've known them as for the last years. But DeepMind is a British company that are a subsidiary, I suppose, of Alphabet, the Google owners, and they're developing their own version of it. It's going to be a little bit different in its approach. They're not giving much away because they haven't launched this yet, but I think it's going to be more rules based. So it'll be interesting to see what they come out with.
Yeah, we're going on pure speculation at the moment, so I suppose
Absolutely.
we'll just have to wait and see. But for such a big company, you can be sure competition will come very quickly.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. It'll be interesting to see. Like, we've had conversations about this off air about, could this in the future, because one of the things that ChatGPT can do as well is it can write basic code. So will this be able to write JAWS scripts in the future? Who knows what the future might hold for these kinds of technology. But as you say, Joe, it's all speculation at this point, but it's exciting speculation, I think.
It's exciting in a lot of ways and frightening in others.
That's true.
Frightening as in it can be too powerful, in some ways, and you want your brain to still be able to do jobs and do things. But if it helps us in any way, I suppose with assistive technology, that's all good going down the line. So the future is bright, and we'll hope for the best.
A certain amount of us, Joe, of a certain vintage will remember Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator, and that was big film back in its days.
Yeah, that was a big one back in my day as well.
Yeah. I suppose it is subtly there in the back of the mind, like there were two great. Well, the first two films were very, very good. So, but it did kind of paint a dystopian future. Around about this time, if you think back to the timeline of the movie, the seeds were sown around this time, and another 40 years down the line, the whole world is up in flames. So, look, I'm sure there's going to be severe checks and balances put into place that don't happen, but it does bring the skeptic out in us.
It's the rise of the machines, Daniel, isn't it?
That's it.
One thing I would say as well, guys, I'm kind of delighted in a way. Could we have a chatbot find that could actually be beneficial? So I'm not sure about yourselves, but when you're in touch with a customer support on a page on a company website, you find that you just want to get to speak to a real life person because maybe the responses of the chatbot aren't really giving you the answers you want. So it might be a potential use case there. Could we actually have a potentially useful chatbot, for example? Might be one potential use here. But on a serious note, though, something that we touched on earlier, though, I do find it interesting that there's currently no AI-specific regulation in place internationally, but I do believe that Europe is working on putting together an AI Act. And I think one thing is for certain is that, like with ChatGPT here now, that I think OpenAI creates a really greater sense of urgency to have some regulations in place as soon as possible.
I think that is one of the things that will come from this very soon, JP. You're right.
Yeah. I think we've definitely with the advent of ChatGPT, I think we've more or less crossed a threshold in terms of how we're harnessing AI and machine learning. Just like a totally different level from anything that we've experienced before. Yeah. So the future will be interesting.
It's a crazy time. Crazy time. We should point out that if you do want to experiment with ChatGPT yourself, that's certainly something you can do. You can go to the OpenAI website. You do need to create an account, but just create an account with it, and it's just like interacting with a normal chatbot. It is accessible with screen readers that I've tested it on anyway. So have a play around with it, see what you can make it do, and who knows? Send us your results because we might as well enjoy it now before it puts us all out of jobs, I think.
I had a bad crack with her about 3 weeks ago. I asked it just for 6 numbers and played them in the lottery. Needless to say, I won nothing.
So it's only good for some things. For some things.
Yeah.
Well. Well, that's ChatGPT, an exciting future for sure. Exciting. And that little bit scary, but who knows? It was also a crazy time for technology. At CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. The Consumer Electronics Show took place in Las Vegas in the last few weeks, in early January. And there was all sorts of wild, crazy technology, everything from, new smart home stuff to pillows that breathe. So crazy technology. And we've all been taking a look at some of the different stuff that was announced at CES. And JP, I'll start with you. What stood out to you at CES? Was there anything crazy?
There were a few standouts this year. I think it was really around the areas of smart wearables and smart TVs. And before you do go on, I just want to say I'm delighted to hear that you have no intentions on defusing any bombs. At least.
Yeah. Not for now. Not for now.
But you're the man to go to if that ever does come up.
Well, apparently we might be able to receive training just to shake it about or something. So I don't think the NCBI will back that advice. But hey, ChatGPT stands over it apparently.
So CES. So the Consumer Electronics Show, or as you pointed out, CES for short, it's an annual tech conference. It's held in the US every year, and it's where some of the biggest tech companies in the world will come together and showcase our latest products, technologies, and innovations to other consumer electronics industry. So it is also for the general public as well. Tickets, I think, are a few $100s if you're lucky enough to get your hands on one. I've never been. I've been to Vegas before, but I wasn't at the CES conference. I was in Caesar's Palace, but I've never been to this one before. The conference, I was looking at this, interestingly, started back over 50 years ago. It was 1967, and it has grown now to become one of the biggest, and some might say most prestigious technology conferences in the world for the general public. Just to give you an idea, so this year's conference was held in Las Vegas. Hasn't always been in Las Vegas. It was virtual actually the last couple of years. It was held in different cities previously. This year it was attended by over 100,000 people, and we had 2,200 exhibitors, to include very, very big players from the likes of Panasonic and LG and Sony, to name but a few. But occasionally have companies like Microsoft and Apple attending to discuss their latest product innovations. Before we discuss some of the highlights of this year, what I thought would be interesting is to take a couple of moments just to see what were the big product announcements, say, over the last number of years. And I found this interesting because it wasn't an event I knew a whole lot about, but then when I started reading back over the last 10, 20, even 30 years, some massive kind of innovations that were revealed at different CES conferences over that time. I'll give you an example like this. If we go back to over 40 years ago, 1981, we had Philips and Sony introduce us to the CD player, which was developed together. The year afterwards, the conference was held in Chicago that year, and attendees got their very first glimpse of the Commodore 64. Never had one. Neighbor had one, but never had one myself. Loved playing it though. And then in the interview,
you sound very envious, JP.
I was. You could tell from my tone. Yeah, I was always a bit jealous. Yeah, I had an Amstrad, David. It wasn't quite the same.
Nowhere near the same prestige.
No. And then over the last few years, we've had devices like your Nintendo, your Xbox. We had DVD players even. In more recent years, and I mentioned Microsoft have attended and Apple have attended conferences. For example, Microsoft would attend to release a new version of Windows. And then we have companies like Sony and LG and other big players like Samsung as well, releasing their latest smart TVs. Now, one of the products that I was really impressed with was from LG. They announced a 97-inch wireless OLED TV. It is massive. It wouldn't fit anywhere in my house anyway. So that just gives you kind of a flavor as to what kind of products that have been released since. Not so much released, but more unveiled. So these products aren't for sale following the conference directly. Rather, these are announcements of various products from very big tech companies. So as I say, in terms of noteworthy tech from an inclusive tech perspective this year, I found there was a lot of emphasis, as I mentioned, on smart wearables and smart TVs. And when it came to smart wearables, for me, the two products that really stood out was one, there's a new smart glasses from Panasonic, and it's actually a joint venture. So Panasonic have partnered up with a Barcelona-based startup called Biel, that's B-I-E-L. And what they've done is they've unveiled a pair of what it calls life-changing smart glasses. And these are designed to aid people in mobility, people who have a vision impairment in O and N. And in terms of how they work, apparently this venture between Panasonic and Biel, they're using Panasonic's imaging innovations in the form of VR goggles, and they're combining it with Biel glasses AI technology for users with low vision capabilities. And the goal of these glasses is to help reduce mobility issues caused by impaired vision, but more specifically, it's peripheral vision loss, which is actually like tunnel vision. and it could affect people like, for example, with glaucoma or RP, retinitis pigmentosa. So the idea behind these glasses is there's no official name on them yet, but they're just being kind of labeled as Panasonic glasses, smart glasses for now. But these smart glasses will enable users to receive feedback about obstacles and other hazards using the latest AI technology from Beal and robotics technology developed by Beal Glasses, and will allow vision impaired users to move ideally with safely around and independently with more confidence. That's what they're labeling these glasses, their kind of their use. I think it's good that obviously you have big companies like Panasonic and working with maybe smaller companies like Beal to produce these kind of glasses. I think it's interesting to see where that'll go. But the other glasses that caught my attention was the eSight. Now the eSight's actually been around for a while. There's the eSight 4, I believe, and now the eSight Go have been unveiled this month at the CES conference. So these have been described as like a large pair of sunglasses. The big difference between the previous eSight, the eSight 4, and the eSight Go is really down to kind of how subtle they are. There's a lot of feedback apparently from users of the previous eSight that they were quite cumbersome, quite clunky, and now they've made them much more lightweight and portable and more comfortable to have to wear as a device. In terms of how they work, I've actually got a few lines here directly from the eSight website that might explain this better than me. I'm just going to read it out here. It's saying here, the way eSight works is the camera picks up stimulus that the wearer can no longer perceive because their central retina is damaged. The software allows the user to magnify the brightness and to use contrast or color filters so any photoreceptors in the center of the eye that are still viable are triggered because now the image is larger and brighter and a bigger stimulus, if you will. The photoreceptors take the central image and send it to the brain, where it separates what should be a central image and a peripheral image to shrink that blind spot out of the way. So essentially what it's doing is enhancing the individual's residual sight. That's what these glasses are designed to do. There are just two items that came kind of stood out for me. I know there's a lot of other items that we were focusing on. I think, Joe, one of the items you were looking at was a pair of, I think it was Celeste smart glasses. Is that right?
Yes, JP.
Yeah.
So Celeste.
Pronouncing that wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you, Joe.
Celeste. SELEST. If you do a quick Google for those, you can get straight to their website and watch a demonstration video on how they're used. But basically, they claim that they're slimmer and look good. They don't have any clunky software, you know what I mean, on the actual frames themselves. And so I suppose they don't sound that much different to a lot of other smart glasses. But you can say things to them like, where am I? What's my location? You can make phone calls on them without going to your phone. Call ma'am. You can straight from the glasses you can get a scene preview of something and tell you what's around you, like a group of houses or a car or whatever, or it could be a dog or something in front of you. You can make a video call on it, so whatever way you are looking, you could be looking at something and the video will go straight to the person you call and they'll be able to describe what's in front of you, as in tell you what colour shirt to pick out or something like that. Also, I suppose what makes these a little bit different is they have Celeste volunteers. So I see on their website, if you are sighted, you can request to be a Celeste volunteer. So it's a little bit like Be My Eyes in that way. You can call a Celeste volunteer and then get help through the eSight or the Celeste glasses, and then the person can assist you that way. They didn't mention much about battery life or anything like that, but I suppose, as you said, this conference is probably a year ahead of its time, so it makes announcements and they're probably not for sale yet. So it could be, I think it said pre-order or something, or put your name down for pre-order on their website. So you could be looking 6 months to a year down the road. It'll be a competitor to people like Envision and maybe Arkham and things like that. So they said it'll also read text, so like Arkham reads text of items on shelves in the shop and things like that. But it'll be interesting to know how good they actually will be.
Yeah.
the videos can make the product look better than it is, but you won't know how good it is until you actually test it yourself.
It's always good to have competition in markets like that, isn't it? Especially in assistive technology, where there tends to just be a few players at times.
Yeah, that's true, and they describe themselves as another AI glasses. I know we spoke a lot about AI, but I see someone you mentioned, if you didn't have the word AI on your stall or service in the CES conference, you probably shouldn't have been there. You know what I mean? So everybody was speaking about AI. It's the current thing at the moment.
It's the buzzword for sure. Daniel, you were sending us this article about a really interesting feature for televisions, a really cool accessibility feature. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so Samsung, they've basically, I suppose, announced that they're going to introduce Relumino. It's a mode that goes on to its TVs. It's around a little bit, right? So they have a history of putting this out through glasses that they first shown at CES back in 2018. But now what they've done is they've took the technology from those glasses and actually put it into the TV, and it's really aimed at low vision users. So so you're watching a TV program and you switch on Relumino mode, and what it does is it will take different layers of the image. It'll highlight outlines of, let's say, people that are on the screen. It was a great little video put up online about how it works, and it sharpens up the contrast, enhances colors. So it results in a picture, I suppose, that's easier to see. It's clearer. And it does show kind of a before and after applying this Relumino mode. It's a setting that will come on the Samsung TVs into the future. So
also there, Daniel, sorry to interrupt. The man that helped develop it was a movie director, and he developed RP. So that'll show you the type of condition that it might help. If you had RP, you might be similar to him, and he had trouble seeing things that were low contrast, so it made the images on the screen high contrast, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, you're dead right there, Joe. And it's also on it's already on some of VR stuff that Samsung are into as well. So they're bringing it to the TV. So it'll that they're bringing it on to the new QLED 8K televisions later this year. So
those sound like they'll come with a steep price tag, I'd say.
I'll imagine so, yes.
Especially when they're 8K, but who knows?
Yeah, and also they're 4K TVs as well.
Okay, that's good. Who knows?
Yeah, so I suppose it'll come in. Look, it's like all these new features to come in on the top end, the flagship models, and within 2 years, then they're on every set that you can buy, for standard enough money. So I'd imagine, by 2025, it'll probably be a standard feature on Samsung TVs. I would imagine.
Absolutely, yeah, an interesting concept,
maybe, but yeah.
Hey, look.
So just one more thing that I think I just mentioned it at the start of the show was the ZF about the electric shuttle. So just it looked quite cool. I only seen it now in a brief presentation, but it'll have a range of 129 kilometers. It'll go 40 kilometers an hour. It can carry up to 22 passengers. So it's definitely one to see, would some city councils invest in these systems? Maybe could you see like Dublin getting them or something like that, to assist with maybe bus routes that are not profitable or something, but still puts accessibility or public transport access out to hard to reach areas. So
if they have next stop announcements, I'm on board.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
I think that's coming though, isn't it?
Apparently someday, who knows? We can live in hope. One of the other interesting things that I spotted at CES, and it might sound like, oh, that's a bit of a stupid idea, but the U-Scan, which is a urine scanner that sits basically in your toilet bowl, slips on the, do you know, the kind of edge? So it sits on the edge of the toilet bowl. And when you go to the loo, it will scan and see if you have any medical conditions. So it's effectively like a medical test, really. And the reason I think this is really cool is for a long time and traditionally, these sorts of tests have often been color coded and fairly inaccessible for people with sight loss. It's the same with things like pregnancy tests for women or whatever the case may be. So it might be interesting that something like the U-Scan might help with this. So the U-Scan is made by Withings. I've actually tried the smart scales from Withings, and they send the data to an app. The app is fairly accessible. So a really cool concept that who knows in the future you might be able to do medical tests like this just by having a little pod in the toilet that sends the data to your phone rather than having to use a color-coded bag or tube or something like that. It might make life a little bit easier for people, which is always a good thing. So yeah, loads and loads of different technology announced at CES. There are tons of different bits. And yeah, what we...
Sorry, I have my mic mute there.
Oh, you're coming in. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting to see where all this is going, the different applications of it. You know, something like that could be able to detect some health issues or something like that. Like, that's absolutely fantastic. And you know, to be able to have that in the privacy of your own home, you know, I think it's a great development.
Absolutely. And we've seen with things like pregnancy tests before that, you know, organizations like Clear Blue, for example, have had partnerships with Be My Eyes, which is all well and good. But something like the U-Scan allows you to do this, as you say, with way more privacy, which is a really great thing, you know?
It's very important to have personal privacy when it comes to medical things like that. Oh look, who knows? I think that one will definitely take off if for the likes of people with vision impairments down the line a couple of years. It's something you insert in. It's not a big product as far as I realize, David. It's an attachment, isn't it? Or
it is an attachment. So it's obviously I've never seen one of these in person. I don't know exactly what kind of size it is, but it looks kind of like the size of a bar of soap that just clips onto the side of the toilet bowl. And it has replaceable pods. The pods last about 3 months. So they're planning to launch 3 different pods. One is for menstruation. The other is for just general health checks. And then there are some more medically orientated ones coming later. And the pods last about 3 months. And the plans are for the pods to cost $30. So who knows? The fact that you could have, for example, regular pregnancy tests throughout a pregnancy, you know, you could do that for a year for $120, which isn't, you know, if that's something that's important to you, that's not a massive amount of money in many respects for what you're getting potentially.
Very interesting product. Thanks, David.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Joe, we're coming back to you now because it wasn't announced at CES, but it is smart glasses. The Bose frames, Joe, you've been playing around with these. Tell me a little bit about them. How do you find them?
Yes, David, I found them really good. I wouldn't go as far as to say they're smart glasses. They're more audio sunglasses. So they connect to your phone via Bluetooth, and they're sunglasses, so they have dark lenses, and the audio comes from under the frames and is aimed at your ear canals. So I suppose, why would a vision impaired person want these? I know there's a lot of vision impaired and blind people who wear sunglasses anyway, so that's one plus. for eye protection and maybe other reasons. They like certain different tints, such as blue blockers or orange tints or brown, things like that. So as one good thing about these particular sunglasses, you can actually change the lenses. You can get prescription lenses and things like that. So just to move away from the lenses part of it, one of the most important things is the sound. So they have open ear technology. So they don't cover. It doesn't cover your ears. So while you're listening to the sounds coming from the glasses, you can also hear outside sounds like ambient sounds from around you. So if you're walking on a footpath, you can hear the traffic, or if you're crossing the road, you can hear the beepers and the traffic lights, things like that, or you can hear somebody maybe chatting beside you.
Speaking of someone beside you, are they going to be able to hear what you're listening to, or is it a bit more like bone conduction where that's avoided? Is it a speaker, or like how likely am I to hear your voiceover or whatever the case may be if I'm sitting next to you on a bus?
That's a good question. If you're in a silent room, the person might hear some feedback, not too dissimilar to wearing another set of earphones, we'll say, and you had them up loud. Maybe a little bit, it might be slightly louder than a normal set of headphones. But if you're on a bus and there's other ambient sounds around you, I don't think you can hear them. I've tested this, and they're not hearable. You wouldn't really notice it. You know what I mean? And the same walking down the street. There's lots of noises when you're out and about, and these aren't the sound that comes out of these is not noticeable really. Unless you have them up to 90% or something, which you wouldn't realistically do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The sound quality from Bose, they're called the Bose frame Soprano. Bose frame Soprano is the actual name of the product, and the sound quality from them is actually amazing. It's really, really surprising. So if you have an iPhone, you go into Apple Music and you play some of your music or whatever actual service you play music from, the sound will come into the frames, and it's very good. There's really good bass on it, and it's surprising really. You can also activate your we'll say your assistant. If you're using either Siri or a Google Assistant, you can activate that by double tapping the side of the frames. You can turn up and down the volume of the sound of voiceover or music. So by sliding forward with one finger on the right hand side of the frame and sliding backwards with one finger on the right hand side of the frame. And the frames are shiny to touch. So it's like shiny plastic, and they're fairly strong as well. So I suppose when you're using them for eye protection, obviously you don't want to use a product like this for just for eye protection, but they are scratch resistant, so they take a little bit of a bang. I wouldn't like to test that too often, David, but they are quite strong. They are quite strong, you know.
What about battery life?
Battery life, yeah. Battery life. I had the previous version a long time ago, and the battery life, it was in the Bose frames Alto. That was only 3.5 hours. So the battery life of these this particular product has improved by 2 hours, 5.5 hours, which isn't bad really. I suppose it takes roughly an hour to charge them to full charge again. So you could bring them to work, wear them for a few hours, and before you go home, charge them again, and you have renewed battery life. So it's not too bad, but these things improve all the time through different versions of the product. There is a sports version that has 8.5 hours or up to 8.5 hours, which might suit somebody better. Like if you're into hiking or something and you're out for the day, you're not going to have anywhere to charge your device unless you bring a power bank with you or something. Or if you're into blind golf, you could be out for 6 to 8 hours as well. Same with tandem cycling. So the sports version would suit a vision impaired sports enthusiast, you know. So that's another option.
Interesting. Are they pricey products, Joe? They're expensive units?
Pricey, yeah. At the moment, you might get them for 180 in the sale, but the regular retail price is 250 euros, approximately.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming ones like the sports model are extra then, are they?
Not much extra. I think it's something like 30 to 50 euros extra. Not major extra. They're called a tempo, actually. They're not made direct, but something similar to the price of an AirPods Pro 2. I preferred actually the sound of AirPods Pro 2, obviously a little bit better, and they're not sunglasses, of course, but the transparency sounds that come in, it's a little bit easier to concentrate on the transparency sounds when you're using the AirPods Pro 2, but that was just my experience. Somebody else could feel totally different, And I suppose the reason that the Bose frames became popular in the first place was so that people could use them with mobility apps. And unfortunately, the one they were used with most and they linked in with most was Soundscape. And they were very popular with Soundscape because they supported head tracking. But that's gone now, that's history. So you can still use them with Google Maps and Apple Maps and Lazarillo and Blind Square and whatever else is in your pocket on your smartphone.
Interesting. So I guess overall, Joe, would you recommend them?
I definitely would recommend them. And just to point out, they're definitely not smart glasses. So you're not going to be able to recognize text or anything like that. They're audio glasses, just to keep that in mind. They're audio glasses with open ear technology. So if you want to use them with mobility apps or just to be able to listen to your phone on the go, they're for that particular use case.
And are they using Bluetooth then, I assume? Yeah.
Bluetooth, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the charging is fairly easy as well. To go back to the charging thing, you get a special little magnetic charger that sticks on the inside of the frame, and if you're using them for every day, you'll probably have to charge them every day. So, yeah, I definitely recommend them. And some people don't like sticking AirPods into their ears because some people don't like the fit, or they don't like those silicone tips either. So definitely, it'd be suitable for those type of people as well. That just prefer to have their ears open, and you get the bonus of a trendy pair of sunglasses as well.
Yeah, and speaking of looking trendy, are you happy with how you look in them? I hear you've been looking very stylish around the NCBI offices there lately, Joe.
Really cool, David, yeah. Until I have to give them back. They're only on trial, unfortunately, but yeah, they look really cool.
There are people stopping you on the bus and all that now, yeah?
yeah, all the time.
Oh,
of course.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, Joe, thank you so much. Great to hear about the different technology that's out there. The Bose frames, really cool technology. So thanks, Joe, for trying that out for us. We are now at an end. Thank you so much for listening to Talking Technology over the last little while. It's been an interesting ride from everything to AI, CES, Bose frames, all sorts of stuff. You can check out the NCBI YouTube channel if you want to catch up on clips of the show. Those should be out soon. And yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with another exciting episode. Some exciting episodes coming up ahead. Actually, we have a Women in Tech special that's coming along the road too. So loads to look forward to. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to get in touch with us in the meantime, you can call the NCBI info line on 1-800-911-250. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. From us here at the NCBI Labs team, have a good 2 weeks, and we'll see you really soon.
Thanks for listening to the Talking Technology podcast with NCBI Labs. If you would like to support our show, you can visit donate.ncbi.ie. The NCBI Labs Talking Technology podcast is proudly sponsored by IA Labs, the market leader in the provision of digital accessibility services.